the most addictive machine ever built, is in your pocket right now. And it is not a design flaw. It was built to exploit a loop that a man sitting under a fig tree identified 2,500 years ago. Your phone is not the problem. Your craving is the problem. And the Buddha mapped the exact loop before the first notification sound. A former Google engineer saw it. He had spent years as a stage magician before he ever touched a line of code, and he recognized the moment he walked into the building. He called your phone the most dangerous slot machine in human history. But what the Buddha called it is far more precise, and it comes with an off switch that Silicon Valley does not want you to find. His name was Tristan Harris. Before he became a design ethicist at Google, he performed magic, close-up, card, tricks, misdirection, the kind where you make someone look left while the real move happens on the right. Good enough to know that the best tricks work because the audience does not realize a trick is happening. In 2013, Harris sat in a Google cafeteria and watched something that changed him. Hundreds of engineers, some of the most technically literate people alive, sat across from each other at lunch and could not stop checking their phones. Not because anything urgent was happening, because something might be happening. The pull was not in the content. The pull was in the not knowing. Harris recognized the structure. It was a magic trick. And it was the same trick a slot machine uses. He went back to his desk and wrote a 144-slide presentation called A Call to Minimize Distraction and Respect Users' Attention. In it, he laid out exactly how apps were designed to hijack human psychology, the same variable rewards, the same unpredictable payoffs, the same loop that keeps a gambler pulling the lever at 3 in the morning. Google circulated it internally. Employees did. Leadership read it. And then nothing changed. Harris walked away. But the mechanism he described did not start with Google. It did not even start with technology. In 1953, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner discovered something about rats. When he gave a rat a food pellet every time it pressed a lever, the rat pressed steadily. When he gave a pellet at random, sometimes after 3 presses, sometimes after 20, sometimes after 1, the rat pressed compulsively. It could not stop. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. It produced the highest response rate of any pattern he ever tested, and the greatest resistance to extinction. Every slot machine on Earth runs on it. Every social media feed on your phone runs on it. 40 years later, a neuroscientist at Cambridge named Wolfram Schultz found the reason. He was studying macaque monkeys, and he found something no one expected. Dopamine, the chemical everyone calls the pleasure chemical, does not fire when you get the reward. It fires when you anticipate the reward. The buzz is the hit. The content is the letdown. Your brain does not want the thing. Your brain wants the wanting. That is why you can scroll for 40 minutes and feel worse than when you started. You were never getting what you came for. You were chasing the moment just before getting it. In 2014, a behavioral economist named Nir Eyal published a book called Hooked. He gave the loop a name: trigger, a notification, a buzz, a moment of boredom. Action: you pick up the phone. Variable reward: Maybe something interesting, maybe nothing. Investment. You leave a comment, you update a profile, you check back later. And then the loop starts again. Ayal was not warning people. He was teaching companies how to build it. 3 researchers across 70 years mapped one loop. A rat pressing a lever. A monkey anticipating juice. A human refreshing a feed. The same pattern, the same mechanism. But a man sitting under a tree saw the same loop 2,500 years before any of them. And he did not just name it. He found the exit. What the Buddha called this loop is a word you have probably heard before, but its real meaning has been buried under 25 centuries of translation. And the real meaning is the reason the loop has an off switch at all. If this is making you think differently about the device in your hand right now, subscribe. Most of what the Buddha actually taught sounds nothing like what you have been told. And if you have ever deleted an app, felt proud of yourself for a day, and reinstalled it by Thursday, drop that in the comments. You are not alone. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why that happened. What the Buddha found was not a philosophy. It was a diagnostic tool, and the diagnosis starts with a word that does not mean what you think it means. You have done this. You are sitting somewhere, a couch, a bed, a waiting room, and your hand reaches for your phone. You did not decide to reach. There was no thought that said, pick it up now. Something just moved. A pull. A thirst. And by the time you notice what happened, you are already scrolling. The Buddha had a word for that pull. Not craving, not desire. The Pali word is tanha, pronounced tanha. And tanha does not mean what the English word craving suggests. It does not mean wanting something. The word literally means thirst, physical thirst. The kind you feel in your throat when you have not had water for hours. The Buddha chose a body word for a mind pattern, deliberately, because the reach for your phone is not a thought. It is a sensation. It lives in your fingers, your chest, the back of your neck. You feel it before you think it. And that is exactly the point. 2,500 years ago, in his very first teaching at Deer Park, the Buddha stood in front of 5 monks and told them that the origin of all suffering is tanha. Not pain, not difficulty, not the things that happen to you. The thirst, the reaching, the constant pull toward the next thing that might make the feeling stop. He described 3 kinds. Kama tanha, the thirst for sensory pleasure. The next taste, the next image, the next sound. That is your feed. Bhava tanha, the thirst to become something. The next follower count, the next version of yourself. That is your profile. Vibhava tanha, the thirst to escape what you are right now. That is why you pick up your phone when you are bored, when you are anxious, when you are sitting with a feeling you do not want to sit with. 3 kinds of thirst. 3 reasons you unlock your screen. Named in a deer park before anyone had invented glass. But the Buddha did not stop at the diagnosis. He saw something even more specific, something Schultz would not find for another 25 centuries. He mapped the exact chain of events that happens before the thirst arrives. He called it dependent origination, and the link that matters most for the device in your pocket is this one, Vedana. The Pali word Vedana, pronounced V-D-H-na, gets translated as feeling, but that translation hides everything important. Vedana is not emotion. It is the split-second flash of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral that arises the instant you make contact with anything. A sound, a sight, a vibration in your pocket. Before you know what the notification says, before any thought forms at all, your nervous system has already tagged it. Pleasant, reach toward. Unpleasant, push away. That tag happens faster than thought, and that is where tanha is born. Not in the phone, not in the app, in the microsecond between the buzz and the reach. The Buddha said something that sounds strange until you feel it for yourself. He said, freedom is not in removing the buzz. Freedom is in the gap between Vedana and tanha. The gap between the tag and the thirst. That gap is where every compulsive reach either happens or does not, and most people have never once noticed it exists. The Buddha did not just name the thirst, he watched. He watched someone drown in it. There was a woman named Kisa Gotami who lived during the Buddha's lifetime. She had one child, a son, and the boy died before he could walk. Kisa Gotami could not accept it. She carried his body through the streets, knocking on every door, asking for medicine, not funeral rites. Medicine? Someone finally sent her to the Buddha. He did not turn her away. He did not say, your son is dead, and you must accept it. He said, I can help. Bring me a mustard seed from a house where no one has ever died. Mustard seed was the cheapest spice in India. Every house had it. She went to the first door. Do you have mustard seed? Yes. Has anyone in your family died? My father, last year. She went to the next door. My husband? 3 years ago. The next, my daughter. She kept going. Every single house had mustard seed. Every single house had death. She stopped. She put the child down. Not because she stopped loving him, not because the grief went away, because she saw. The thirst for the next door, the belief that the next house would be different, was the same thirst, the same tanha, reaching for the thing that would finally make the ache stop. And every door gave her the same answer. You do that every time you pick up your phone. Not because you are grieving a child, but the structure is identical. Something aches. Boredom, loneliness, the low hum of a Tuesday afternoon. And you reach the next notification, the next scroll, the next door. And every door gives you the same answer, a moment of relief that dissolves before you finish feeling it. Kisa Gotami did not need more willpower. She did not need someone to take the mustard seed away from her or lock the doors so she could not knock. She needed to see the pattern. The moment she saw it, the reaching stopped on its own. That is what most people get wrong about phone addiction. The entire self-help industry says, fight the craving, set screen time limits, delete the apps, go on a digital detox, lock your phone in a box with a timer, and all of it works for about 4 days. Then the thirst comes back. Because you never saw the thirst, you just built walls around it. The Buddha said something radical. He said, do not fight the craving. Do not resist it. Do not distract yourself from it. Watch it. The Pali word for this is sati, pronounced sati. It gets translated as mindfulness. And that translation has been so overused that it means almost nothing now. But the original word comes from a root that means to remember, not to relax, not to breathe deeply, to remember. to catch yourself in the gap between Vedana and Tanha, between the buzz and the reach. And remember that you have a choice you did not know you had. Here is what that looks like in practice. The next time your phone buzzes, do not pick it up and do not resist picking it up. Just notice the thirst. Feel it. It is in your hand, a kind of magnetic pull. It is in your chest, a tightening. It might be in your jaw. Give it 3 seconds, not 3 seconds of fighting it. 3 seconds of watching it. 3 seconds. That is Vedana becoming visible. That is sati. In 2005, a neuroscientist at Harvard named Sarah Lazar put experienced meditators into an fMRI machine and found something remarkable. Their prefrontal cortex, pearl cortex, the part of the brain responsible for attention and decision-making, was measurably thicker. So was their right anterior insula, the region that lets you feel what is happening inside your own body. The exact 2 things you need to notice the gap: attention and interoception. The Buddha's technology works. We can see it on a brain scan now. You do not need to meditate for 20 years. You do not need to become a Buddhist. You do not need to throw your phone in a river. You need 3 seconds, the 3 seconds between the buzz and the reach. That is where the off switch has always been. This is not about willpower. This is not about deleting apps. This is not about going on a retreat. This is about seeing the thirst before it moves your hand. Here is what you are taking with you. First, your phone was built on a loop that a psychologist, a neuroscientist, and a behavioral economist spent 70 years mapping. Trigger, sensation, thirst, reach, repeat. It is the same loop that drives every slot machine on Earth, and it was designed to run beneath your awareness so you never notice it operating. Second, the off switch is not discipline. It is attention. 3 seconds of watching the thirst before you reach changes the entire chain. You do not need to delete anything. You need to see one thing: the moment between the buzz and the hand. That is where the loop either continues or breaks. Third, you are not addicted. You are thirsty. And thirst, once seen, loses its grip. You were never weak. You were never broken. You were reaching in the dark for something that was never behind that screen. Now you can see the reaching. And seeing is enough. The Buddha did not look at Tanha and say, destroy it. He did not say, overcome it. He said, see it. He trusted that seeing would be enough. 2,500 years later, a neuroscientist at Harvard put that claim into a brain scanner and found that he was right. What is the one app that you know is the slot machine in your life? The one you open without deciding to. The one that is already glowing in your hand before you realize you picked it up. Tell me in the comments. The fashion, you are naming a thirst, and naming it is the first step to watching it. If this video changed how you think about the device in your hand, subscribe. There is an entire tradition of practical psychology that is 2,500 years old, and almost none of it sounds like what you have been told. The Buddha did not say, put down your phone. He said, watch the hand that reaches for it.